Trained Monkey Modding is a group of Assetto Corsa mod creators that perhaps doesn't get the attention they deserve. Based in the Czech Republic and Slovakia, they've brought a glimpse of the Eastern European motorsport world into the AC community mainstream. Their adaptation of Autodrom Most from R-Factor 2 has become a popular mainstay of the sim racing system track rotation, and if a race car has ever been manufactured by Skoda, TMM has probably produced an excellent rendition of it. The quality of their mods is always high, and they fill a niche that was largely ignored by the content provided by Kunos in the original game, and indeed by the rest of the modding community as well. All of which makes their latest offering from Assetto Corsa such an interesting departure from their usual fare. On April 8th, Trained Monkey released a rendition of the Cupra Leon Competición TCR, the latest version of this race car as it was in 2020. Fuzo, one of the founders of TMM, was kind enough to answer some questions about the mod, including the reasons for choosing this car. Every mod we make has some significance to us. Cupra was chosen because guys at real-life racing partners FULLINRACE Academy bought one, and we liked it so much that we decided to bring it into the AC sim as well. This is a car that was recently brought into Race Room by Sector 3 Studios, who then used it for an extensive online competition series. And it is the next real-world evolution of a car which arguably put Sean Clark on the map for many in the AC community. So it's interesting that TMM would choose to produce their own version of the Cupra Leon Competition, when it's literally the only car in the TCR class which would have legitimate competition in the AC mod ecosystem. But sometimes things just line up, and you just know what you have to do. In the real world, Cupra made the transition from Seat Autosport badge to its own independent mark in 2018, and the 2020 update to the Leon is its first all-new generation of the car, replacing the outgoing Seat Leon, which was released in 2012. This rendition by Trained Monkey Modding faithfully recreates the current generation of the Cupra TCR race car, with help from a professionally developed 3D model and a sound library from SHR Modding, still better known to soundpack aficionados everywhere as AC Fan. Fuzo further explained how the model came together in our interview. Our core team is very small. We're actually only 2 people, and we don't have any professional 3D artists on our team. So we were forced to purchase the Cupra model from Square Team. These models usually don't have proper interiors. They're made mostly for screenshots and renders. They usually lack specific details and have a high polygon count. So when we got our hands on the model, we had to modify it to fit the AC engine standards, add a lot of details, create the interior almost from scratch, reduce that polygon count, texture it, assign materials, create LODs, and so on. It is not as easy as it might appear. A big help was the fact that we spent some days with the real car, and I took a lot of pictures and measurements that helped a lot when modeling some stuff in the interior. All that extra effort shows immediately when you load into the game. The model is highly detailed, inside and out. The dashboard display includes everything you expect in a current race car, along with a lot of interesting extra features for those of us who make full use of the custom shaders patch. Not only is the headlight indicator functional for low-light racing, but the turn signal indicators also work. The other panel lights also illuminate as appropriate for other less than pleasant scenarios. In terms of driving dynamics, a comparison to the excellent 2019 Cupra Leon by Sean Clark will be inevitable. Indeed, Fuzo acknowledged it in our conversation. Sean's Cupra is indeed very popular, and I would guess it is in the top 10 in almost every top AC mods list. We know the mod, and we've even driven it in our community events. I won't say which is better, just because we are talking about 2 different cars, and I respect all other modders and their work. Train Monkey's car is different from that earlier adaptation in a few crucial areas. While both are front-wheel drive touring cars with all the strangeness of 80% brake bias and backward footwork that are assumed with that configuration, the TMM car generates a level of grip and overall handling that feels much more realistic than the supernatural grip found on Clark's version of the car. This car encourages a lively two-footed approach to cornering, using the brake and throttle in moderation to coax the car through the twisties, occasionally resulting in some deliciously lurid drifts. The relationship between power and traction also feels a little more plausible in the TMM car. While this is still a race car, and thus more than capable of breaking the drive wheels loose from a standing start, it's not nearly as prone to uncontrolled wheel spin at higher speeds. The folks at Train Monkey Modding renewed their relationship with real-world race team FULLINRACE Academy for guidance on tuning the physics of this car, and that experience and feedback has clearly paid dividends, producing a car with realistic, intuitive handling that begs to be pushed to its limits. After a couple of races, guys from FULLINRACE liked our Octavia mod so much, they invited us to real races as a gratitude for bringing their car to the sim world, and since then we started to visit them more often and travel with them to various venues across Central Europe. We simply became friends with the whole team. They're all very nice people. In return, we try to do our mods in a way they can use them for training. Their race engineer is a sim racer, so it was quite easy to get data from them. He even helped us with our implementation in AC. All of this translates to a fun, realistic driving experience which is available right out of the box. With the exception of brake bias, which you'll want to push forward a bit, the default setup is excellent, allowing you to simply jump in and enjoy the car. For the more obsessive armchair engineers among us, the setup is extensively adjustable, including perhaps the widest range of brake bias adjustments ever allowed on a mod car. There might be additional time to be found here, but for most of us, the best idea we could have about how to set up this car is probably the Reset to Defaults button. Perhaps most crucially for the online racing community, the Train Monkey Cupra is much more realistically balanced against the other classes of race cars in Assetto Corsa, particularly the Porsche Cayman GT4. When Arcus hosted a 3-hour event on Lilsky and John R's Road America, the Sean Clark Cupras were seconds per lap faster than the GT4 Porsches, and even at risk of catching some of the slower GT3 cars. The TMM Cupra TCR, by contrast, is close to, but not quite up to, the pace of the higher-class Porsches. If you're trying to put together an event to simulate something like the IMSA Pilot Challenge or a similar multi-class race with GT4 and TCR, the Train Monkey version of the car will be the one to choose. So even though there are already lots of versions of this real-world car in Assetto Corsa, some legitimately sourced, others not, but all generally fun to drive, is it still worthwhile to pick up yet another one? Just one practice lap in Train Monkey Modding's 2020 car will answer this question with an emphatic yes. Fuso and crew have raised the bar on quality for mod cars in the TCR class, and have brought us a current generation car with appearance and handling that rival and exceed the quality of other modders or even Kunos themselves. Their experience in modding and their relationships with real-world race teams have contributed to a mod that is intuitively realistic and immediately accessible to drivers of almost any skill level. If you haven't already been enjoying Train Monkey Modding's content, then let this be your impressive introduction into everything they have to offer. And if you have experience with their other mods in the past, then you will find nothing here that will disappoint you. As they joke on their website, these trained monkeys really know how to put out a high-quality mod, and the 2020 Cupra Leon Competition spectacularly showcases what they can achieve with a little help from their friends.